President Trump is touting his administration's economic agenda in his second term, saying there is much success going around. But the majority of Americans say they are just not feeling the relief, as prices on many household staples are still on the rise, and many are making tough decisions on what they spend their money on. NewsNation correspondent Hannah Brandt live at the White House tonight. Hannah.
Yeah, Natasha, I think you laid it out perfectly there. We've got President Trump taking full ownership of the economy, even saying he's proud of it, as many Americans are really still feeling the pinch of high prices. Just days ago, President Trump sat down with NBC News for an interview that aired today just before the Super Bowl. Listen to what he said about the economy.
At what point are we in the Trump economy?
Oh, I'd say we're there now. I'm very proud of it. I think 26 is even going to be better. You know, we have hundreds of billions of dollars pouring into our country, actually trillions.
One of the economic indicators we've repeatedly seen the White House tout is the stock market numbers. It was a record day on Friday. The S&P 500 rallied 2%, its best day in several months, while the Dow Jones Industrial Average topped the 50,000 level for its first time. President Trump taking credit for the record high in a post just hours ago, saying these gains are driven by his tariffs and predicting the Dow will hit 100,000 by the end of his term. But a majority of Americans just aren't happy about the economy right now. Some new Pew Research polling found 72% of Americans rated economic conditions as fair or poor. Only 28% said they were excellent or good. And that may be because of the rising costs for everyday goods. For example, the price of ground beef is up 26% from a year ago. Coffee costs are 20% higher. Electricity also more expensive. There are a few relief points, though. The cost of eggs fell about 28% in December, and gas prices are down around 6% since last year. And in the last 5 years, since just before the pandemic, costs on necessities like childcare and car insurance have also skyrocketed, costing Americans an average of $4,400 more each year. Now, the White House did say President Trump would be prioritizing affordability this year, even saying we could expect to see weekly travel from the president to talk about the economy ahead of this year's ever-important midterm elections. But I would note, last week we did not see him make any economy-focused trips. I did reach out to the White House to ask why that was and to see if we can expect any to happen this week. So far, though, Natasha, they have not responded.
Yeah, I appreciate you making that effort. And meanwhile, Hannah, Israel's prime minister set to visit Washington this week, just as the U.S. is conducting nuclear talks with Iran. What can you tell us about this meeting?
That's right. This is an important meeting. Prime Minister Netanyahu's office says he's going to be here at the White House on Wednesday. Of course, we know Netanyahu is a close ally of President Trump. This is far from his first time at the White House. But this time, this visit comes as Israel is trying to exert some influence over those ongoing nuclear talks that the U.S. is holding with Iran. Israel and the U.S. have really been aligned on many of their goals, which includes an end to Iran's nuclear program, removal of enriched uranium, limits on ballistic missiles, and stopping support for terrorist organizations in the region. And remember, President Trump does say U.S. leaders will meet with Iranian leaders again this week after that first round of talks happened Friday in Oman. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, President Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner, and Central Command Admiral Bradley Cooper all spearheading those negotiations on behalf of the U.S. President Trump seemed to think they went pretty well. He described those talks as very good, though he did warn if Iran doesn't make a deal, the consequences will be very steep. And Iran's foreign minister does say those conversations were a good start, but he issued some new comments today where he threatened U.S. forces. He said, quote, "If the U.S. attacks us, it is evident we don't have the ability and access to attack U.S. territory and therefore have to attack or retaliate U.S. bases in the region." Now, the U.S. has been building up a military presence in the area with warships and fighter planes positioned near the coast of Iran. That's something President Trump continues to point to as he weighs the possibility of military action on the country. And remember, it was just last summer when nuclear negotiations with Iran did end, when President Trump ordered 3 strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities. This time around, though, Trump has signaled some optimism that talks could end differently and maybe end even with a deal, Natasha.
Hannah Brandt live at the White House tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.